Bonjour classe, comment ça va? Bienvenue dans la classe de français 2. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes leçon 13. On y va? Okay, très bien classe. Leçon 13, lots of vocabulaire. Not much else to worry about. So let's learn a few words and review some words you've already seen. For example, we're talking about things to do on the weekend. Where can you go? What can you do? What can you see when you go into town and do different things? For example, au cinéma. You guys already know that one. Au théâtre. I think you know that one too because it's the same as the word in English. Au concert, same thing. Au musée, that's a museum. Et au stade, we've learned that before too, going to the stadium. So what are different things you do in these places? Par exemple, on va au cinéma pour voir un film. On va au théâtre pour voir une pièce. Une pièce is the French word for a play. On va au concert pour entendre un chanteur. Entendre means to hear, un chanteur, to go hear your favorite singer. On va au musée pour voir une exposition. Une exposition is an exhibit at the museum. Et on va au stade pour assister à un match. Assister à, I think we have done this one before. Remember, assister à does not mean to assist. You're not helping with the game, you're just attending the game. Assister à means to attend. Très bien. You'll notice on page 208 there are other things that you can do. For example, au stade pour voir un joueur or une équipe. Au concert pour entendre un groupe or un orchestre. So take a look at page 208 and just notice some of the other phrases that are there. We now move on to a few more new vocabulary words. These are all verbs. Notice they're regular ER verbs, so you already know how to conjugate them. But let's find out what they mean by telling a story of going to a concert. Quand on va au concert, on laisse, I'm trying to, delayed reaction here with my pen. On laisse la voiture au parking. Laisser means to leave something behind, to leave your car in the parking lot. Quand on va au concert, après qu'on laisse la voiture au parking, on cherche des sodas. Chercher. Chercher has two meanings, and the first one is to go get. Chercher des sodas. But chercher also has another meaning. Après qu'on cherche des sodas, on va et on cherche les sièges ou les places. Chercher also means to look for. On cherche les sièges. We look for our seats. On cherche les places. We look for our place. Chercher. I'm searching for something. Chercher, to search. Oui. Après le concert, on garde le programme. Class garder means to keep. Garder, like you're guarding it because you want to keep it. Garder, to keep. On garde le programme parce qu'on ne veut pas oublier ce concert. Oublier. I always forget what that one means. Oublier. It means to forget. See what I did there? Oublier, to forget. But of course, after the concert, on n'oublie pas cet événement. Never forget this experience. Laisser, chercher, garder, oublier. Oh, I missed one. When you're looking for your seat, chercher, eventually, hopefully, you find your place. And that is the verb trouver. So make sure you get trouver, which means to find. Très bien. Class, going to the movies is a really big deal in France, and we'll learn about that in just a few minutes. Like, why do they love the movies so much? If you go in your textbook to page 210, You'll see all the different things to say when you go to the movies, how to buy tickets, how to ask, what time does the movie start, what are we seeing, and especially, what kind of movies do you like? Quel genre de film aimes-tu? Here are the French words for various film genres. Notice how many of them are cognates, how many of them look like English. Star Trek, for example, and the entire Star Trek franchise, as well as Star Wars, etc., is un film de science-fiction. Well, that looks familiar. Just pronounce it with a French accent. Science-fiction. A film like Raiders of the Lost Ark or The Mummy or other action films are called les films de aventure. Les films d'aventure. Pink Panther, we watched a little bit of in class not too long ago. It's meant to be funny. It's une comédie. Comédie. High School Musical and the like, anything with singing and dancing like West Side Story that just came out recently, is une comédie musicale. I have to move myself so you can see my writing. Musicale. Which is interesting because even if the story is sad or tragic, the ending of West Side Story is quite sad in many ways, it's still called une comédie musicale. That's just the name of it. Vendredi 13. Do you recognize that? What is that in English? Friday the 13th. And the horror genre, un film d'horreur. Basically the same word, just spelled à la française. Un film d'horreur. Astérix and Obélix is a very popular comic book in France, and it is also a popular cartoon. The word for cartoon is une dessin, which is the word for drawing, animé, animated drawing, un dessin animé. Shutter Island and other movies like that, which sometimes feel a little bit like horror, but there isn't as much blood and guts because it's more of a psychological thriller. Like a thriller is called un drame psychologique. Psychologique. Do you notice how they pronounce the P? Psychologique, psychological. It gets in your head. And this last one here, it's got cowboys. It's got the Wild West. In French, guess what they call it? Un western. Yep. That genre became popular in the United States and made its way to France eventually as well. So these are some different types of movies, styles of movies that you might like. And let's talk about le cinéma français, because movie theaters are incredibly popular in France. The reason of that is that France is known as the birthplace of cinema. It was les Frères Lumière, great name for someone to invent this kind of motion picture film, because the word lumière means light. Les Frères Lumière, the Light brothers, in France were the ones who invented the French version of moving pictures. And they popularized it in France, and so because of that, even before Thomas Edison got it going in the United States, les Frères Lumière made film popular in France. Paris has the highest density of movie theaters in the world. You can hardly trip up the block without falling into a movie theater in Paris. Many cinemas in France offer a flat rate monthly pass for around 30 euros, and that means you can go to as many movies as you want that whole month. That's a pretty good deal, and it's because the people of France love to go to their movies. There are government grants that help to make it possible for smaller filmmakers to produce films. So there's just a very large film industry in France. Although it's not as well known as Hollywood, it also does allow for smaller filmmakers, independent films, to gain a little more ground because they are receiving grants from the government to help fund their projects. And an interesting thing, while most films in the United States premiere on Fridays or Saturdays, in France the film premieres are usually on Wednesdays. Now, talking about going to the movies, you could always go to the movies alone, but isn't it more fun if you take a friend? So let's see how to call someone and ask them to go out with you. Remember our phone calls from before? When you pick up the phone in France, you don't say bonjour, you say allô? Allô? Bonjour, ici Sylvie. Est-ce que tu veux aller au ciné avec moi? Do you want to go? Est-ce que tu veux aller? Qu'est-ce qu'on joue? Qu'est-ce qu'on joue? What's playing? On joue Elf. Quel genre de film est-ce? Quel genre de film est-ce? C'est une comédie. À quelle heure commence la séance? Class, la séance is when the film begins. The showing of the film. La séance. À 20h30. D'accord. Je veux bien. I would love to. Très bien. But if you can't go, or if someone is declining the invitation, they might say, non, je regrette. Ah, I'm sorry. I'm bummed. Je ne peux pas. I can't. J'ai d'autres projets. I have other plans. Et voilà. Now you know how to ask someone to go out, how to accept, and also how to turn someone down. Class, for the very last part in your packet, I'm scrolling past all this, you have some film posters. What are you going to do with these? You're going to answer the questions in French. So let's do a little sample together. Qu'est-ce qu'on joue? Remember that question? That means what's playing. Qu'est-ce qu'on joue? Well, apparently it is De l'amour, les Simpsons, le film. So that's what you write. Just write the title to answer what's playing. Quelle sorte de film est-ce? What kind of film is this? Sorte is just another word for genre. So if you go back and look at our film genres, what would you say this is? Une comédie, you could say that. But also, because it's a cartoon, you could also say un dessin animé. Oops, animé. Voilà, that's an N. Comment s'appelle l'acteur principal? Who is the main actor? L'acteur principal, the main actor. Is it Bart Simpson? Is it Homer? It could even be Lisa. You decide. Et quand est le film? Look carefully on the poster to find out when is the movie. Voilà, le 25 juillet. It debuted on July 25th, le 25 juillet. Et voilà. Class, there are 2 other movie posters to look at. Make sure you see all of the information on the poster, and there may be some important information typed above or below the poster that can help you to answer these questions. And that is where I will leave you. Welcome to Lesson 13. We're going to have a good time continuing with this, and I will see you in class next time to continue talking about le weekend. Merci. À bientôt. Au revoir.